Bro, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. So basically, first I just want to actually dive in. I'm just gonna go in straight. Let's talk about quitting your job
Big
because that
topic.
is the. I know you spoke about it a lot in your videos already,
Yeah.
but like, you. This is your first job, right?
Yes. Out of
First job.
uni, first job. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big one as well, and it's something you. I think you said that you've been like wanting to do since early uni or even before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's quite difficult to obtain because like there's so many interviews and
Yeah.
it's just a whole difficult process
Yeah.
to run it through like why did you want to quit in the first place?
Yeah. So I think it's multiple. It's an array of things, right? So first of all, context was that I went into consulting without really knowing what I really wanted to do. So I went to law school in Durham. I knew I didn't want to become a lawyer after having some work experience. So I thought the most natural progression was consulting because consulting is essentially the job that people get, the job that ambitious people get if they don't know what to do, right? And
Oh,
I
that's a good
went
way to
to
put it. Yeah.
consulting. Yeah, I went to consulting with like really high hopes of what it would do to me. So I think after working there for about like 6 to 9 months, I started to realize it's not really for me for a couple of reasons, right? So first of all, I wanted more ownership in the type of work that I do. But as a management consultant, essentially, you don't have skin in the game, which means you don't have ownership in what you're doing. What you do essentially is just advising clients and without really doing the implementation, which is something that I really didn't like. And secondly, for me, I think impact was a really big thing. And essentially, when you work in a big consulting firm, especially as a junior person, you're just a cog in a machine. And I think that's not just in consulting, but across different professional service type work as well. And I really wanted to work on something where my input, so like the work that I do, is more tightly linked to the output, which is like the outcome or the result of like the piece of work. And I think consulting wasn't really doing that for me. And I think lastly, it's just that aspect of exponential growth. I think with jobs like consulting, investment banking, and law, they do a really good job of protecting your downside but capping your upside, meaning that you won't, the worst case scenario won't be that bad, even if you're in one of these fields. But that also means that your upside is severely limited. Whereas in a field like working in a startup with equity, or even like building your own thing, or even like content creation, right? If you do it full time, obviously the downside is not as well protected because if it doesn't work, then maybe you run out of money,
Yeah.
or like you don't have a job.
Yeah.
But the upside is essentially uncapped, meaning that you can make as much as you can and have as much of an impact as you can, just depending on your ability, right? And that's like the main reason why I decided to quit my job, I'll say.
I see. So just go back on a few things actually you said. So number one, you said the one of the reasons was because of the impact, right? So is that because it's kind of low key diluted? So you've got like an investor, private equity, and then consulting firms, and then there's a value chain, right? So
Yeah,
you weren't directly involved in the outcome there, right?
I think it's both in like a macro sense and a micro sense. So in a macro sense, right, like you said, because I'm involved in the process with so many stakeholders. There's a private equity that does the investment. There's a company that are being bought, and then there's like different companies doing different DD, and we were doing like commercial due diligence as the strategy consulting firm.
Yeah.
In that sense, the impact that we are doing isn't really that high. But also in a micro sense, right? In my own company, in the project that I'm working on, I feel like what I am doing can be done by any other graduate from Oxbridge. If I leave my firm, if I leave my job, they will
Ah.
immediately find someone to replace me, which
Just
I
like
don't
a
want to
cog in
be.
the wheel. Is that what you
Exactly,
mean?
exactly.
Okay.
And I don't want to be in that position.
Right, I see that. That's a good point. And I think now that, what about like, okay, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate, but what about a strategy consulting firm that is like very boutique, that has like less steps, you have more of a direct impact. Maybe it's like an environmental thing, for example. What about that? Diverse
I
question.
think that will be better in some sense, but still, it doesn't solve the ownership issue or the exponential growth issue, which is also some key reasons why I decided to quit
I see.
consulting.
Okay, and then now you've completely quit. And just before you like, did you know you wanted to quit a few months before, or like, what were you
I
thinking?
think I started having thoughts of quitting probably 6 months before I quit.
Okay.
So it was really when I went back home for Christmas. I went back for a month, and during that month, having that time away from London, away from my job, and away from like just the environment and all the people that I'm seeing day to day really gave me more perspectives in terms of, do I really like this job? Is this something I want to do long term? Is this aligned with my value? Do I see myself, if I want to be the type of person I want to be in 10 years, is what I'm doing right now really helping me get there?
Yeah.
And really having that space to think through those stuff. So after I went back to London, I started reaching out to more people, speaking to startup founders, speaking to people doing stuff similar to what I'm doing, and ultimately decided to quit.
Okay, and then you wanted to become your own founder. You wanted to
Yeah.
find your own business as well.
Exactly.
When you said you started speaking to startup founders, what was the process? What did you reach out to them on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so yes, most of the time I just reach out to them on LinkedIn, and sometimes it is through like mutual connections. For example, I know people. I'll tell people, hey, I'm thinking of quitting, and then they'll say, hey, this guy is working on a startup. Maybe you can reach out to them. And other times it is just through like different mediums, but mostly like reaching out to them on LinkedIn. Surprisingly, really most people are really willing to help if
Okay.
you have a clear ask, and if you're genuine, and if you're not, if you have a good attitude. And that's something I realized in the past year as well. Most people are easier to reach than you think. As long as you shoot them a DM, maybe one out of three will actually get back to you and jump on a call, and you just have to like take the step, I think.
Yeah. I think it's that inner fear that people might have, like
Yeah.
the rejection fear, right? Like, what if like I reach out to this person and they just reject me?
Hmm.
But if you don't ask, you don't receive. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And then when you say you asked, like, shoot them a DM, did you like, on LinkedIn you can add a note? Did you just be like, hey, like, I'm looking to start something and I've seen your experience? Is that what?
Yeah,
what
it's
sound of it?
essentially something like that. But
Yeah.
I try to make it as tailored as possible. For example, if the person also worked in consulting before, I'll say, hey, I'm also working in consulting. I'm also thinking of quitting my job and doing something like you did. Very curious about your experience and your thought process before quitting. Would you mind jumping on a quick call? Would really appreciate it. Something like that.
Yeah. That's good though. It shows that you've got initiative.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then now that you've, pulled the trigger, how does it feel? When you first did it, when you went up to your manager,
Yeah.
and then you said, what did you just hand in your notice? How
Yeah,
did it
so
happen?
the day that I quit felt quite scary and felt like quite a big deal. But then you quickly realize that no one actually cares about you that much than yourself. So no one actually, like, people will say, oh, I'm sorry to hear you're leaving. Or people will say that, oh, we'll miss you. But like, at the end of the day, especially in these big companies, they just keep going. Like like I said, you're just like one small piece of a puzzle. You're not gonna be, I won't say you're not gonna be missed that much, but like on a company level, you're just not as important as you think you are. And it also made me realize, okay, like I made it sound like a much bigger deal than it actually is. Because like, at the end of the day, right, that's also another exercise I did before I quit my job. A lot of people don't take action because of uncertainty. Uncertainty is essentially why people are afraid to taking that extra step. So what you have to do is to bring clarity into that uncertainty. What is holding you back? So one exercise I love to do is this fear setting exercise. I think it's coined by Tim Ferriss for our Work Week author.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to him. So what you do is essentially before making a big decision, if you're afraid or you're scared, just ask yourself what the worst case scenario is. So
Okay.
for me, the process just goes, I quit my job. What if my first idea doesn't work out? Okay, then maybe I work on my second idea. What if my second idea doesn't work out? Okay, maybe I work on my third idea. What if after 10 ideas, 10 months, 12 months, it still doesn't work out? Well, I'll keep trying until I run out of money. What if I run out of money? Well, I guess I'll have to go find a job. And
Okay.
at the end of the day, like the worst case scenario, even if I tried my best for a whole year, nothing came out, there's no result to show for whatsoever.
Yeah.
It just brings me back to having to look for a job, which was essentially what I was going to do anyway.
I see. Okay. I'm just gonna clip this on because now this is a really good top point, I think. So you are very analytical. It's from the sounds of things. Like you really have all the steps like planned out. You've got like there's your goal, but there's these possibilities that could happen. These doors. Like if I enter this door without intending to, I know what to expect and I know the solution.
Yeah.
Which is really good. It's a good way to be like manage a risk. But then my point is then, if you have that in the back of your mind, that there are possibilities of failure, doesn't that kind of feed into your subconscious, and then naturally, like, you might have this less inclination to give it all?
Not exactly, because I also know that realistically, your first venture is not gonna work. Realistically, it's gonna take you like 3, 5 startups for it to actually work. So I essentially see what I'm doing as like part of a statistic. My first failure just helps me get closer to my eventual success. Say you need five startups
Yeah.
to actually get to one that makes money, right? If my first one fails, it just means that I'm one startup closer to getting to the right one instead of like, oh, this doesn't work, this is not for me. If that makes
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, it's true actually. All the founders that I've watched on YouTube and stuff, they
Yeah.
all say like it will take like multiple different ventures for you to actually hit the nail on the
Yeah.
coffin. But essentially never to give up, right? Because if you just
Yeah.
give up after like the third one, the fourth one, then you're just never
Exactly.
gonna
Yeah.
like make it basically.
Yeah.
It's the same way as like video like on YouTube and stuff. Like you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to keep posting until one video just pops off, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
exactly the same concept. But my question then is like, if you like, isn't there a point where you're like, I don't know, like, I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? Like,
I think 100%. Like, I think that's my everyday thought almost. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, right now, what I'm doing is so different to what I was doing as a management consultant. Because when I was working in a job, right, there's very clear instructions day to day. And there's also very clear steps I have to take to get promoted, say in like a year or 2 years' time. But right now, I can do whatever I want to do, right? Which is quite crazy. And
Yeah.
every day I'll second guess myself. I'll like gaslight myself into thinking I'm doing the wrong things. But I think like essentially it's just reminding yourself that's natural because most people aren't used to like being in such a flexible position, and me included. So it is just like a step. And I think it's a muscle to build up as well, a muscle to like stop second guessing yourself.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, so now that you're doing it all by yourself, you probably were used to having like a project manager or like a partner basically breathing
Yeah.
down your neck, or like we've got to get these things done. You've got nothing. That's not existing anymore.
Yeah.
You are your own boss in a way. So how do you still stay accountable?
Yeah,
every
so I
day?
think for me, YouTube really helped me gain that skill initially. So I started doing content, YouTube in particular, around 3, 4 years ago. I started during COVID. And YouTube is the same, right? There's no one telling you when to upload a video, no one telling you when to like film something. There's no deadline. Everything is artificial. You have to plan everything yourself. And having that training really helped me get to where I am today, where it's a lot easier to plan things and schedule things ahead, and to really like give myself artificial deadlines, if that makes
Okay.
sense. So one tip or one advice I got from a serial founder before I quit my job was to be sure to set almost like weekly KPIs and like monthly goals for yourself, and to have like these check-ins for yourself, making sure that you're on track. And I've been trying to stick with that. Obviously, I missed like a week here or there, but overall, like that really helped me stay on track,
Yeah.
helping me gain clarity over what I need to do this week, what I need to do next week, and I think that's really helpful.
Okay. And then do you do that like a quarterly thing? So do you like each quarter do you have like goals or?
I used to do that, but I've also realized that with these like frameworks or with these systems, you want to keep it almost as frictionless and as simple as possible. So initially, I tried doing like a daily plan, weekly plan, monthly plan, quarterly plan, half a year plan,
Yeah.
full year plan. But the thing is, when you've added too many of these, it just adds a lot of friction in doing them, and you eventually ended up like only sticking to them for a while and then you forget about it. So
Okay.
right now, what I'm trying to do is just like keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
A full year plan, weekly plan, monthly plan, and just daily plan, and then just keep those planning as stripped down, as streamlined as possible, so it won't add sort of like too much work on my plate.
Okay. I get it. And okay, and it manages pressure as well a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you make these plans, do you start with the end goal?
I think so. Yeah.
Then you work backwards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you know exactly what you want
Yeah.
in like the next 12 months. Like exactly, it's so you would advise if someone wants to quit their job, right? They say like, oh, I don't really know. I know like I want to start something, or I know like that is the area I want to go down in, but I
Yeah.
actually don't know what.
Yeah.
So you would advise against that because then you wouldn't have the steps.
I think you don't need to know exactly, very, very precisely what you want, but you need to have like a general sense of what you want, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So for me, I try to put a number behind it because I think it is just more quantifiable. It's more easy to show that whether you've done it or not. There's no like in between almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number meaning like let's say like you have to earn like 5K or 10K a month.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Understood. And then you formulate a plan. What happens if you? Okay. This is another thing, right? It's like the ability to trust yourself because let's say you set all these goals and stuff. How do you know you're doing the right thing when you haven't done that before?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, essentially, there's no way to do that, right? Like you just have to base what you already know and take the course of action that you think is correct. Because, like you said, right? Like I've not done this before. If I've done it before, then I know exactly the steps. But because I haven't, all I can do is like take in information from other people and then
Yeah.
try to formulate a plan that I think will work. And there's a very high chance that this doesn't work, but it is what it is. If it doesn't work, then try something else, right? I think that has been my approach so far.
Would you then pay for consultations or coaching?
Not really. I don't think that's needed at this stage.
Okay.
I think just from like speaking to people that's willing to help me, and also like just like reading, like listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
and just trying it on my own. I think it's been working so far.
Nice. Actually, this perfect transition for reading and stuff. So, what's a typical day now of your life now that you've quit your job?
Yeah. So I usually wake up around like 8 to 9. It depends on like what time I finish working / what time I like get home the night before. Wake up 8 to 9. The first hour would just be like my morning routine. Morning routine is very simple, right? Wake up, brush my teeth, drink some water, do like a 5-minute meditation, and then make my coffee. And then while making my coffee and drinking my coffee, maybe just read for a bit. I used to do like mandatory morning 10 minutes read, but like
Okay.
I think I've built up the habit of reading so much that I don't really need it anymore. And there's like higher priorities in my life right now. So I do that after reading. I try to do my morning journal. That's one thing
Okay.
I've been doing since I'm 16. Morning journal is very
Wow.
simple.
Yeah.
It takes like 2-3 minutes. 3 things I'm grateful for. 1 to 2 things that will make today a win as long as I do it. And even if I do nothing else, as long as I do those 1 or 2 things, will make today a win. I do that, and then one daily reminder. So I
Okay.
do that
What's the
in
daily
the morning. Daily reminder is just like something that I want to remind myself of that particular day. For example, it can be stuff like
Drinking coffee with Dill.
not that will be in my like one thing that will make today a win. So
Oh,
like
okay.
second
Damn,
category.
okay.
So reminder can be something really random as like some motivation for myself, or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff like stuff like remember that 1% improvement every day is what you need, like
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
random
Yeah.
random thing I want to make sure I
Okay.
remember
Yeah.
for that.
So it just kind of goes into your brain and just
Yeah,
sticks
yeah,
in
yeah.
there. Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know you'd been doing it since 16. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's like because it's so frictionless, right? Back to the point, you don't want to create system and habits that you feel dreaded to do, right?
Yeah.
They have to be simple enough,
Yeah.
so that you actually stick to it. So yeah, right after that, I basically like finish my morning routine. Sometimes I look at my vision board if I'm feeling like really
you have a vision board?
demotivated. Yeah, yeah.
Do you like stick it on the wall or something?
I have it on Notion.
Oh,
Just
wow, okay.
bunch of like different images.
Yeah.
I
That's pretty
sometimes
sweet.
use it, but like not. I won't say it's like mandatory.
No,
Because like
no.
the moment your morning routine starts getting too long, right? It actually starts affecting your productivity because you want to
Yeah.
dive into work as soon as possible, right? So basically, I finish my morning routine and then I do the hardest thing and the most important thing right after that.
Yeah.
So the most important thing for the day, usually for me, right now, will be a 90-minute to 2-hour long coding session,
Okay.
or like learning coding session, depending on what I'm working on in that particular week.
Yeah.
So that would be like the hardest thing to do that day because like coding is so hard. Learning coding is really hard.
Yeah, it must be.
I do that
From
for
scratch
like
as well, right?
yeah, from scratch.
Yeah.
So I do that for like 90 minutes to 2 hours, which brings us to around 12,
Okay.
11:30 to 12. And I maybe like chill for 20 minutes and I make lunch.
Okay.
And after lunch, I try to do slightly shorter work sessions, maybe like 60 minutes, and then probably like max 90 minutes. I do that. And then usually there'll be like stuff
Still
happening.
coding, sorry?
Yeah, still
Okay,
coding
still
usually.
coding. Okay.
So by this point, there'll usually be like just random stuff. For example, like recording a podcast with you, or
Okay.
like grabbing coffee with some people as like a networking session,
Yeah.
or just like different stuff, right? Because like life happens. Your perfect day is never like as perfect as you think it is. So
No.
I
Yeah.
usually leave some space for that, and then dinner. And then after dinner, I still try to do like depending on if I finish my that like one thing I need to do that day. If
Yeah.
I finished it, then I'll like take it slowly. Maybe just like do some chill work session where I'm not like pushing myself as much.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll just chill, watch some anime.
Yeah. Fair enough. What are you watching
Yeah.
at the moment?
At the moment,
Yeah.
I'm starting to watch like older series, so I'm
I'm a
starting to watch
90s anime person only.
Full Metal Alchemist,
Oh yeah.
and I'm also wanting to start watching Hunter x Hunter, but
Okay.
I thought it's really long.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
thing I struggle with. Like, there's so many series I want to watch, but
Yeah.
like, there's so little time.
Yeah. No, they need to make a series about like a startup, someone that's going
I
into.
think there's like K-drama about that. So
No,
I
but an
haven't.
anime, because
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that would be so sick.
That would be so
Although the
sick.
K-drama sounds pretty cool as well.
Yeah, my friend watched it. He's also like a big startup guy. He's
Oh
like, he's
really? Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So, all right. So, do you ever feel like overwhelmed because you've got so many tasks to do, and there's only so little time in the day?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like every single day, I feel like that.
Yeah. Honestly.
I think I feel overwhelmed because there's so much to do, but I also feel like, you know how I mentioned there's like one or two things I want to get done every single day, right?
Yeah.
Usually after I get that done, I'll still feel an urge to keep working because compared to working a day job where when you're off work, you're just off work, right?
Yeah.
I'm on my own schedule. Essentially, I can be working 24/7. So whenever I'm not working, I almost feel guilty for like taking breaks.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I know that I'm at that mental capacity where if I keep pushing, stuff won't really go into my brain, especially if I'm like learning coding. So I'll say, yeah, that's definitely something I struggle with.
And then, so at the moment, is it like a learning phase you're doing rather than you creating a startup?
Yeah, that is a very good question. So actually the best way to learn, I figured, is to actually learn by doing, learn by building. So for anyone that's like trying to learn coding, right? Just from watching tutorials alone, you won't learn anything. You actually have to apply what you learn in tutorials into like building actual projects. And when I say building actual projects, that means projects that you aren't building just following step by step on a YouTube tutorial. It's fine if you want to build like a weather app through watching YouTube tutorials, but you have to make it with a twist where you have to actually think through how to write some code instead of just
Okay.
copying whatever the tutorial gives you. So that's what I'm doing right now, learning by doing. So for example, this week, for context, I've been learning coding for like a month and a half now.
Okay.
So this week I actually made like a to-do list app, which is like
Oh
pretty
wow,
cool.
pretty nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Wait, in a month and a half, that's pretty
Yeah, I
impressive.
can show you, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not from a technical background ever. Like I've
Yeah.
nothing. I'm definitely way more commercial focused.
yeah.
And I think you were the
I'll
same.
say I'm the
right?
same, yeah.
Yeah, you were the same. So like now you've taken a completely different
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
But is that something you wanted to do? Like that's the area.
Yeah, so this is a very good question again. I think I'm doing what I'm doing, which is like learning coding because I really want that basic ability to build something that I can envision. I want to be able to turn my idea into something that I can actually see on a screen, even though it might not be perfect, right? I just
Yeah.
want that basic ability. And I think that in the long term, right, if you want to be a founder, if you want to build something that build software, build an app, even though you might want like technical co-founder, it's still good to have that basic coding ability so you can
Talk the language,
communicate,
right?
yeah, talk the language, you
Yeah.
can communicate with the software developer, you can actually understand
Yeah.
what's happening behind the scene. But
yeah.
like I'm actually really enjoying learning coding right now because I
Right.
feel like I'm at that point where I can actually see myself being able to build something in a short to medium term, whereas when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. Because you're jumping into something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
so deep
Yeah.
already, and you didn't have any coding experience in school, right? No, because you focus more on law.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow. And then like so now it's a learning phase. So did you give yourself set times, so like 3 months,
Yeah.
6 months?
Yeah, so I try to, like I mentioned, right, I try to give myself like monthly KPIs.
Yeah.
So also like weekly KPIs. So for example, this week, what day is today?
It's I should know Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for the start of the week, my KPI was to actually like finish building the to-do list app, which I did.
Yeah.
And also like build a wireframe, so like a design for my actual like startup idea.
Yeah.
So I've done the first one. The second one, I'm actually pivoting to a different idea, which I'm gonna like discuss with some people that's working with me later today. So I've done the first one, and
Okay.
now I'm just like trying to do the second.
So you're doing project by project, applying everything,
Yeah.
learning everything.
So kind of like
Yeah.
watching a tutorial of something, trying to apply it by building something using what I've just learned,
Yeah.
and then just like rinse and repeat. But also like making sure that I'm not stuck in building projects for project's sake.
Yeah,
Also
yeah.
like actually starting to apply that into building stuff that I actually want in the long term.
Okay, got it. And then whilst you're doing that, do you envision yourself doing that for like 6 months or?
Yeah. So I've told myself that I'll do a reevaluation after 3 months. 3 months, as in from the day that I quit my job onwards.
Yeah.
So I think right now I've quit my job like 2 months ago. So I have
Okay.
like one more month.
End of June.
And then I'll do like a evaluation on whether there's something I want to do
Yeah.
for the next like 3 months or like 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, right, like time is limited. Right now I'm only able to do what I'm doing because I've saved up enough money
Yeah.
for a year, and I can't keep on doing this indefinitely.
No.
So I need to like be smart about my decisions.
Ramp up quickly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So and then after 3 months, like you might be in a position then to actually like think about, looking at what's your customer profile.
Yeah.
Which customers you're gonna serve. Or
Yeah.
have you decided that already?
I think it always pivots, right? So I've actually already tested out one startup idea. I built a prototype for it, which is like this AI tool to help content creators better
Oh, yeah.
build fan engagement. I've built out the whole thing like a very crappy view and prototype, but then realized there's already existing players doing something exactly the same, not exactly the same, but very, very similar, and they've scaled it. They've scaled it, meaning that they can push the price down, and they've
Yeah.
made the whole experience really frictionless, which is why I've decided to move on from that idea. And as I mentioned, I'm still like sort of playing around with a few different ideas to decide which one I'll dive into next.
Yeah. And then once you've got that, you're just gonna go all in, right?
That's the idea, but like that's what I was also telling myself when I was working on my first idea,
Yeah.
right? So I think this thing with like building a startup, especially in the early stage, is you have to be like flexible enough to pivot, but also like not switch just because something is like slightly hard to do.
Yeah, no, never,
Yeah.
never. Because when you face problems, it's those people that can find a solution, go out of their way, and then overcome that. That's what
Yeah.
growth is, right? End of the
Yeah.
day. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's really interesting. And then, we spoke really briefly about like the Noah Keegan book.
Yeah.
So I'm taking it very slowly. So I'm actually dissecting it as well. But I'm assuming you're not probably applying that at the moment because you're learning phase,
Yeah.
right? Or are you?
Yeah, so I did the coffee exercise, which you
Oh, yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
So like for context for people that's watching that don't know, the exercise is essentially asking you to, it's like a rejection muscle training exercise where you have to go into a cafe,
Yeah.
and when you order coffee, you have to ask for a discount,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which we both did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
That was really cool.
That was pretty fun. How did yours go again?
The guy looked at me weird.
Yeah.
And like, oh, what do you say again? I'm like, can
Oh,
I get a
okay.
discount? And he asked me why. I told him, oh, this is for a business course I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, what business course? I'm like, just some online
Yeah.
business course. He took like 3 seconds to think about it. He's like, no, sorry, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine.
But that's the whole point. Like, it's not to get the discount. It's to be
Exactly.
okay with being rejected,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's good that you did it as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's scary at first, right? You're like,
Exactly,
oh shit, like
yeah.
people around. Because my worst fear was like the lady next to me hearing it. So that rather than me saying it, it was like, oh, I'm gonna get like people gonna see me get rejected.
Yeah.
So that was my fear.
Yeah, 100%.
But once you did it, it's okay. You move on.
Yeah.
You know.
Back to your point, I think I'm still trying to take like principles from the Noah Kagan book, but not following it like step by step, because I think that there's a lot to learn from the book, but it is not like specifically tailored to like software business, which is what I'm trying to do right now. But I'm still taking a lot of principles from the book. For example, like make sure you validate the idea as soon as possible before
Yeah.
you start building something.
Yeah.
That's something I'm like trying to do as well. And also like build a crappy MVP as soon as possible, stuff like that, right?
Okay. Yeah. Because you don't want to go to market and then no one buys it.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, you're right. That's actually one thing that actually opened my eyes because I was thinking product first, but it's actually customers first. It's always
Yeah.
been. I spoke to the founder at my current company for like 10 minutes, and actually, she was like trying to convince me to go to Canada.
Yeah.
And then I was like, can I just ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
And then I started talking about like starting a business. And then she was like, she went out of character. She was like, wait, are you trying to start a business? And I was like, no, 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 I'm just really interested. And she was saying it's always, always, always customers first. Like they just had their existing pool of clients, very close clients. It serves them really well. Find the pain points, build upon
Yeah.
the pain points. What the other, that's, you're already being separated then from the
Yeah.
competition, because you know what the other players are doing.
Yeah.
Just separate.
Yeah, 100.
But no, that's perfect. I think that's like the pretty much the entire thing that I want to talk about, like quitting your job. So thank you for that, bro. Especially, I haven't released it yet, but I've also quit my job. So, it's. I mean, for me, like I'm not doing exactly what you're doing necessarily, because I've got like a job lined up.
Yeah.
And I just want to use that job as experience to catapult me into like,
Yeah.
because I'm very like unsure at the moment as well.
Yeah.
But I know I want to pursue it.
Yeah. I think like with that, just like one thing on that, I think a lot of people around our age, it's like struggling to find something that they really want to do.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, what is my passion?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good question. Go on then.
Yeah. So I think for that, just like two things I want to say, right? Like first of all, after like reading so many books and like listening to a lot of like founders talk, like I realized you don't actually need to, you shouldn't be like following your passion. I think what you should be doing is like follow what you're good at, and then obviously the thing that you're good at shouldn't be something that you absolutely hate, right?
Yeah.
Follow something that you're good at. Once you start doing it, you'll build up mastery, and from mastery, you'll actually start liking what you do. Because
Yes.
imagine if you're like, I don't know, amazing at basketball, even if you don't like basketball now,
Yeah.
you like it simply because of the fact that you're like dunking on people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think
yeah.
that's like what I'm trying to do is to like find what I'm actually good at and
Right.
double down on it instead of like thinking about what am I actually passionate at, because you realize a lot of people don't actually know what they're passionate about.
No, and then you waste time wanting to know, and you're not actually getting the work done.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
That's actually, you know what, bro? I'm not gonna lie. There's very few conversations that kind of just quickly just click in, and I just had a what the fuck moment. One thing when we spoke last time that's always been on my mind, and I always say it now from the conversation we had. I think you probably know what I'm gonna go into.
I'm not sure actually.
Okay,
Tell me.
it's don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
Ah, yeah.
I have been rinsing that, right, for my
Yeah.
personal life.
Yeah.
And like even I was talking to I don't know if you know, there's a YouTuber called Brandon Belfour. He's a fashion YouTuber in Canada.
Oh yeah.
You know? Okay,
yeah.
so me and him were just like briefly talking in the
Oh,
comment
that's
section.
sick. That's sick.
Yeah, because I was trying to give him an idea, like, can you make a gym tutorial again? And he was like, yeah, like, but my new gym is not allowing me to film. So I
Yeah.
just dropped in. Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, and like, yeah, it just got like a lot of likes and stuff. Like, but it's all from you, like, 'cause
Yeah.
you got it in me, like, and I now the way I approach things, it's
Yeah.
that mentality, and it's 100% works.
And it is life changing because you realize that, especially in this day and age, right, with the internet, you don't actually have to ask. Like you can just do something. You don't need to ask for permission. If you want to make a YouTube video, go for it. If you want to make a vlog, go for it, right? And if someone doesn't like it, they'll tell you. So
Yeah, it's true.
exactly. Look,
true.
like right now we're filming in
literally public,
in a public
park.
space, or
Yeah.
like even if we're filming in like a restaurant, like just do it. And if they don't like it, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
need for you to like first ask for permission, because like if you ask for it first, there's a chance that they can just say no. Whereas
Probably
like if you
quite
start
likely
doing it,
then,
exactly,
yeah, and then you just never get that thing done.
exactly, yeah.
And just now, when you're talking about the passion thing, because that's one of the big questions I've had over
Yeah.
the last maybe month and a
Yeah.
half, and a lot of the friends I even talk to about, they always bring up that exact point, and I just clicked in my head, like before I even started my first job, I didn't know I liked sales and stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's only after like a number of cold calling and like cold emails and cold DMs, all that stuff, and I became like not to brag or anything, but I became the top associate in my company at Q1. Now I quit, but like it felt so good, like being shouted out, getting the award and stuff like that, getting to like it felt so good, and I just wanted to do it again and again.
Exactly,
But it's
yeah.
mastery, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
now that's why I specifically go into sales, because I found like, you know what, that is something I'm quite good at.
Yeah.
So exactly with your point, it just makes complete sense.
Yeah. Or like put it into like a formula. So I've started reading this book called The Algebra of Wealth. It's written by Scott Galloway, this like serial entrepreneur who's now a professor at NYU.
Okay.
So he's like pretty big. I think he does like YouTube as well. Basically, one thing that he mentioned was that, okay, like follow your talent, not your passion. because your talent will bring mastery, and from mastery brings flow, because you're good at something that helps you get into the flow state when you're working, right? And when you get into flow, that essentially brings joy and passion, as people call it, right? So
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what you're
Oh
saying,
shit.
because
Okay.
you're in the flow state when you're doing stuff, because you feel like you're competent, and this is like slightly challenging, but you're also
Yes.
conquering that feeling,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that really makes you enjoy the moment a lot more, right?
That's true.
Instead of
That's
like
true.
you liking, oh, I like to make cold calls, and then that's why I go into the shop, right?
Like no one
Exactly.
actually likes to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't even like to do it. It's just like I like the outcome
Yeah, yeah.
rather than doing it. You know what
Yeah,
I
and
mean?
you're good at it, so like you feel competent
You
when you
feel
do it.
and then the confidence is bruised, right?
Exactly, exactly.
But that's very interesting, and actually, that's just like clicked in my mind because that's the one thing I wanted to know. And then, so I was gonna say with passions, then, do you feel like now that you're following something else, that the whole process, the mastery process, do you still have passions?
I'll say I'll even argue that I don't even know what I'm passionate about in the first place. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I like videography. I guess I like football.
Yeah.
Uh, I won't say I'm passionate about like anything in particular. I like a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question, like I don't even know if I have a passion in the
Yeah.
first place.
Okay. 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 Interesting. So you kind of like rather than you going with passion, you find passion
Yeah,
in the journey.
yeah, because like you get passion, or you enjoy something after you become good at it, right? Like we
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah. 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 Damn, bro, that was good. That was really good.